You're listening to Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Tanya Lowe, a podcast of curated conversations with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development. Get ready for inspiring interviews, educational lessons, and thought-provoking discussions that will challenge you to execute something new and innovative that will drive results in your organization. And now, here's Dr. Tanya Lowe.
Hello. You're listening to Season 5 of the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Tanya Lowe, using my results-driven philosophy of strategy, leadership, teams, and customer experiences. I help organizations develop their best-kept secret, their human capital. This podcast is designed to expand the conversation with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development, and what it really takes to create, develop, and maintain results-driven and high-performing organizations. We are excited to welcome back Dr. Deborah Johnson Blake, affectionately known as Dr. DJ. Dr. DJ is a dynamic force in the realms of leadership, productivity, and education. With over 13 years of experience, she wears multiple hats as a corporate trainer, professor, and consultant. As the CEO of The Writing Pad, Dr. DJ empowers clients to overcome writing and editing challenges. Her expertise extends to time management and life coaching, where she's made significant impacts as a certified professional. Her passion for serving others and boosting productivity is evident in her best-selling book, 52 Time Management Hacks, solidifying her status as a leading authority in the field. An award-winning educator and recognized servant leader, Dr. DJ's mission is clear: to help people optimize their lives and achieve their full potential. Make sure you go back and listen to Dr. DJ Season 4, Episode 72. Dr. DJ, welcome to RDO.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lowe, for that kind introduction. I am so happy to be back with you and excited to share more information that's going to help your listeners be their best selves.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad to have you back. You know, whenever you're here, we have so much fun. And guys, go ahead and grab some paper and a pen, because we're talking about one of the things that, as I'm working with leaders, is productivity. Everybody wants to know, how can I be more productive? So don't miss these nuggets that you're going to get today. So right out of the gate, I got a question for you.
Okay.
got a question for you. How do you distinguish between busy and being truly productive? You know, I think a lot of times people feel like, you know, I'm busy, I got so much stuff going on, but they're not necessarily productive. What you got for the people, Dr. DJ?
Oh my goodness. And I think we've all been there. Busy,
Yes.
Busy, productive. What am I doing today? A lot of times when we consider ourselves busy, we're just kind of checking off the to-do list, so to speak, you know, and things that may not always be part of your prioritized goals list. We all have that long to-do list, but what are your priorities truly that's going to impact the bottom line and impact your continued success, right? Because when we're busy, a lot of times, some of those tasks can be delegated to someone else. So if I'm productive and I'm planning out my week, let's say I'm planning out my week and I love to plan. One of the pro hack I like to use is the Eisenhower matrix. I don't care how often I talk about time management and productivity, the Eisenhower matrix is always going to be a part of that, because that's how you can prioritize those tasks that mean something, those tasks that are aligned with your vision and your goals, and not just straight busy work.
Okay. All right. So people need to go and find the Eisenhower matrix.
Yes, and I can tell you a little bit about that.
Tell us about it.
Yes, and you can find a sample of that anywhere online, but it's a game changer if you put the effort into it, okay? So when you think of priorities, if everything is a priority, then nothing is. So you have to have some priorities. And to do that and to truly see what you're doing is using the Eisenhower matrix. So this is how it works. It's 4 quadrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your top left quadrant that talks about doing it right now,
Mm-hmm.
important and urgent. That's your top left. You have your top right quadrant that talks about important and not urgent, and that's where you want to schedule it. Okay. Then you have your bottom left quadrant is not important and urgent, and you want to delegate those tasks. And then, of course, your bottom right is not important, not urgent, and you want to eliminate it if you can. Okay. Do those tasks really need to be on your list? And that's part of that busy work that we talked about earlier. So it's either do it now, which are the crises that we come across, right?
Mm-hmm.
The emergencies, the things that we have to handle. Schedule it, which is that quadrant that's to the top right. That's where we want to be most of the time, because that's where the planning comes in place. So if we're working on strategic planning, if we're working on proposal writing, these are things that we're scheduling on our calendars to determine the best days and times to start working on that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so think about a square and think about it divided into 4 quadrants. And that's what you're looking at.
I already got mine written on my paper. I already have it written down. You know, she right out of the gate, she's already dropping nuggets. But so here's my backup question to that, right? So you know that there are many leaders who struggle with delegation. And one of the quadrants is, hey, this is what you should delegate. Talk to that person who they feel like, I got to do it myself. I got to do it myself.
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say nothing's perfect. Yes, we are conditioned to do things ourselves because we think we're the best people to do it. But that's not always true. And another thing with delegation is we want to be able to empower our team members. We want to be able to empower our employees by giving them projects and tasks where they can learn a skill set that doesn't need to be on your list as that CEO, as that C-suite leader. So when you're looking at your tasks as the leader of an organization or department, you want to ask yourself, is this something I should be doing? Truly? Am I the only person that can do it? If the answer is no, then that's when it needs to be delegated. And when you delegate to someone else, it's okay if they have a different method of how they reach that outcome that you anticipated. It's okay that they may have questions because this is an opportunity for you to coach them. So you do have to be clear in your instructions when you are delegating tasks, especially handing something over that was your baby, right? But let them do it. And if they fail, that's okay because that's a learning experience. Okay.
It's an opportunity. It's a great opportunity, you know.
Yes, great opportunity.
I talk to so many leaders who feel like they have to keep everything. And they're the people who can never go on vacation. They can never turn their phone off because they haven't spent the time developing in order to delegate. Right? We're going to call that D squared. Delegate, develop so you can delegate. And if you're a leader, that's what you should be doing. You should be developing other leaders within your team. And the best way to do that is by giving them an opportunity. It's not, I'm going to give them the grunt work, the things I don't want to do, but really to develop them. Absolutely. And you develop through delegating. So I love that. I love that. Somebody that's going to save somebody listening to the podcast today.
It absolutely is.
Somebody needed to hear that.
Yes.
So, you know, in that same vein, Harvard Business Review, there was a Harvard Business Review study. 80% of executives report working more than 40 hours per week, yet only 62 feel they're consistently productive, right? And so I think here's where the Eisenhower matrix will really help them. So what do leaders need to do to model productivity for their team while preventing burnout for themselves and helping their employees avoid burnout, you know? So John Maxwell says people do what they see. So if I see you running around like a chicken with your head cut off, you're going to have a culture of people running around, you know, more busy than they are productive. Talk to the leaders. How do you model this behavior that we just talked about?
It's funny, and I cannot think of a study that I recently read, but did you know that working over 55 hours is counterproductive each week? And I know leaders work, 50, 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours, and I don't even know how they do it, okay?
They don't sleep.
Yeah, you don't sleep, but are you at your peak performance?
Right.
And is that what you want to model, for the people that you lead? And burnout is a real thing, okay? Burnout is a stressor. Burnout,
Mm.
whew, burnout can kill. Let me just say that.
I'm getting stressed out just saying the word burnout, Dr. DJ.
And you know what? It took me years to get to a certain point where tomorrow's another day, prayerfully, okay? Do what you can today in your 8, 9, I'll even say 10 hours for some people, because if they work a 4-day work week, it's sometimes 10-hour days. But when you are working beyond 50, 55 hours, I want to encourage the leaders to truly step back and assess, what are you getting done? And to really know what you're getting done requires a time audit. And I mean, this is a whole nother conversation, but you literally have to write down what you do every day, even if we do it for a week, so you can assess where your time is going. But as a leader, of course, you want to model the way, right? And
Exactly.
what is the way for that department? What is the way? What is the culture for that department? And you're right. If that's part of the culture is work, 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 then nobody is really getting anywhere fast. Yeah, some things are getting done, but what are you truly doing to be your most productive self and not lead to burnout? Because I'm gonna tell you, it took me a long time. I used to work late. Yeah, I used to get up early. I'm a morning person, so I'm most focused in the morning. So I want to do
Yes.
it then. But when it comes to the end of the day and it's time to go home, I'm ready. I'm packing up my purse. I'm telling my assistant, hey, I need you to start wrapping up around 4:30. Time to get off 5. So you can go home and enjoy the rest of your day for the other things that you do in your life besides work. Even though we know we spend a lot of time there, what is that? And I don't even want to say this word, Dr. Lowe, work-life balance. But work-life integration basically works a little bit better.
Yes, I love it.
And so all of this, our leaders should be conscious of that when they are emulating styles that they want their employees to adapt. And of course, we know everyone is not the same, because what's the sense of that? We want different people on our teams to do different things. But working 55, 60, 65, 70, 80, I can't do it. I don't
Not on
understand
the regular, not all
not
the
on the
time.
regular.
You know,
If you're
there
in
may be
crisis
some
mode, yeah,
projects that require it, but
right.
that can't be, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years straight, 80 hours a week. Look at your health, look at your hair, look at your your sleeping patterns. It's gonna work against you in the end.
Absolutely.
And
And
you'll
we need
probably drop
rest.
more balls. Things are gonna slip between the cracks.
There's going to always be something that slips between the crack when you're working at that speed, when you're working those many hours, because a lot of times you're not getting anything done because you're tired too.
Yes.
So you're working double time.
As you were talking, I was thinking about, there was a time when I used to crash and burn. And then I was like, I wanted to try to control it. And then I would feel the burn but avoid the crash, right? So in feeling the burn, that means I'm already feeling it in my body. And so then at that point, I'm trying to back up. That's like you trying to floss your teeth before you go to the dentist. It's not gonna, like, what you been doing the other 6 months, right? So
And floss.
create a pattern where it's the culture of the organization to not crash and burn or feel the burn, and you're trying to avoid the crash. And yes, there's some projects where it's going to be all hands on deck, but that shouldn't be the lifestyle of the organization.
Right.
Yeah.
And generally, and I'm just saying this, these are my opinions. Um, and when you are working in an organization, especially if you're new to it, you do want to check out the culture and the values and the lifestyle and see if it's something that aligns with who you are as an individual. Because if it doesn't, it may not work out.
It may not work
It
out.
may not work out. It may not be a good place. And that's okay. Because there are people who thrive in chaos, who thrive, you know, in on that cuspis of burning out. You know what I mean? Feeling it, but
Mm-hmm.
not quite there yet, pulling yourself back. But that's not always a good way to be every single day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and to avoid that, it still kind of goes back to planning and prioritization. Uh,
Yeah.
and when you're planning like that, and when things come up, I just have to say this. This just reminded me that you don't want your calendar to be too packed where you don't have any room, any gaps in there to handle emergencies, to handle crises, to handle whatever comes up. Because what happens is when your calendar is so jam packed, everything's going to be pushed back.
Ugh, everything. Leave some wiggle room in your day. Block out that time for just in cases, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that just in case doesn't have to be a crisis. It could be, you know what? I got this time blocked out. I'm gonna go and try to get some steps in. I'm
Absolutely.
gonna move around.
Yes.
So this is good stuff. I hope you guys are um really taking in these tips and looking at how you can apply them to your life and your organization. So Dr. DJ, I want to talk about something that is it's big. It's just big everywhere. And that's distraction. It's distraction. I want to talk about the D word. What's your
Another D word.
another D word, right? Develop, delegate, distraction. Oh my God. What's your approach to creating a culture of focused work in the age of constant digital distraction? How should people demonstrate boundaries? There's so much talk about the Gen Z generation and how they're plugged into their phones and how that's disrupting the workplace and how and not just Gen Z. I think there are many other generations that are distracted by the notifications and FOMO, fear of missing out. So how, as a leader, how do you create a culture of focused work? We've talked about the Eisenhower matrix. We've talked about delegating. We've talked about, some tips on how to be more productive and less busy. But we got distractions. What are we supposed to do with that?
My goodness. Speaking of distractions, one study found that the average person checks email, rate for it, 74 times a day on average.
What?
Now, and I know it depends on the people that they surveyed and all, but that's completely wild, right? Um, I like to encourage leaders to try checking emails at set times a day instead of
Yes.
every few minutes. Now,
Yes.
some of us, it may depend on our job, and that's what we do. I manage a lot of email accounts myself,
Mhm.
and I've gotten pretty good at it. So I can do that because I practice. But however, when you're in the middle of working and you have a notification, that's a distraction, right? I don't like sounds. I don't want to hear the ping,
Me
ping,
either.
ping, 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 ping. So I recommend turning off those notifications for once, at least a few times a week, depending on what you're working on. Turn them off. And then
Mhm.
you'll be intentional, or you can have a pop-up come up later, maybe morning, midday, afternoon, okay,
Mhm.
to check your emails. If you work with some executive assistants, a lot of times they are checking your emails and will ensure that you have access to those critical communications that need to be handled immediately. But otherwise, not every email need to be answered at that time.
Exactly.
Okay. And then one of the things that I like to do as well is time block.
Yes.
About distractions, I'm just saying, if you're time blocking your tasks that you have to work on with no distractions, you have to be intentional.
Put the
So,
phone in another room.
listen, I know right now I'm sitting in my office. I have a sign on my door, recording in progress or
Yes.
meeting in progress. And when I went to a physical office, I would put a sign on my door if I did not want to be distracted, right? And sometimes you still get the knock, 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 right? I
Boundaries, right? Boundaries.
don't, and that's your boundary. That's the boundary setting right there. So guess what? I'm not answering.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and if you do have a gatekeeper, they can help you with the boundaries, but you have to know what your own personal boundaries are. What are your non-negotiables when it comes to scheduling, when it comes to those distractions? And this is a funny thing that I learned years ago. And one thing I used to do is I had two chairs in my office, and I would put files in them. Because if somebody's coming by your office unexpected, and that happens, that's part of the culture of socializing. We know that.
Right.
I don't want nobody to sit down when I got work to do. Okay.
Yes.
So that way they're standing up. I'm going to stand them up. When I'm ready to end that conversation, I'm walking them towards the door, closing out the conversation.
Oh, that's
So,
good, Dr.
yeah.
DJ. That's good. That's good.
So I'm doing it on my time, you
Yes.
know what I mean? Because I have things to do unless you're going to invite them to do the work and they're going to run off then.
You know what? I love that we're talking about distractions. I can't remember the statistic, but I read somewhere that if you're working on something, it takes you, and then you're distracted, you squirrel, it
Yep.
takes you anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to get back on task.
I was going to say, depending on the study, 17 to 25
Okay.
to
Okay.
get back on task. And they say this is for every distraction. Now, depending on what you work on, it may not take that long at all.
Right.
But imagine the number of distractions depending on what you're working on. So if you're working on that focus work, you really have to think you're being strategic. It's going to take a minute to get back. Okay, what was I thinking
What was
about?
that? What was
How am
I
I
doing?
going? What was I doing? And so that all of that plays in those minutes. But yes, I'm so glad
Right.
you mentioned that. And that is so true. But minimizing those distractions again means putting on your do not disturb, turning off those notifications during your more focused work periods, um, creating clutter-free workspace that promotes concentration. Sometimes when we're around clutter, it messes up with our thought process. It really does.
Mhm. Yeah.
And even if you are like to browse, like we all do sometimes, we get distracted, we might do something, then we're going down that rabbit hole, whether it's social media, whether it's websites. And there's a browser extension like called Stay Focused that can limit the time that you're on websites. might block you out for a little bit. I don't have to use that because, I know when
You're an expert. You're a professional, Dr. DJ. You're a professional. I love this talk about, putting your sign up and, helping people exit the conversation. I can remember a time, we always talk about having an open door policy. I think things have changed tremendously, right? We've got so many more distractions today than we might have had, 10, 15 years ago. And so also let your team know, I'm going to be working on some things where I can't be distracted. I love to find out, how do you learn best? How do you work best? Some people can handle the distractions, some people can't. And so again, I like that as a part of setting that boundary. My door is closed today, but it doesn't mean I'm not available to you. I'm just not available to you within this time period.
Absolutely.
So monitor your need to, I need it now, where it's something that's not needed. Nobody's dying in that
That's what I used to
moment.
say. Building's
And
not on fire.
send me an email, right? Or schedule some time.
Overwhelmed by emails, scheduling, and admin tasks? Eva's virtual assistants can help you get more time in your day. They manage calendars, handle customer service, and tackle projects 24/7. Reclaim your time and focus on what matters. Visit the show notes page to connect with Eva virtual assistants. Let's do more. Now back to the show.
And I think if everybody at every level respected that time and saw that as a boundary and understood that everybody, when they're working on that brain sensitive work, right? Because there's some things you're working on. It's like, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to see anything. Don't talk to me. I need complete silence. And that's the type of worker I am. Like if I'm working on a proposal, or if I'm working on something involving numbers, it's like I can't have any distractions. I just can't. And so
Absolutely.
understanding how your team works and working to their strengths as opposed to creating more challenges for them.
Yeah, absolutely. You are so correct. And that involves communication as
Yes.
a team, as a team. So the leader can
Yeah.
communicate it, but you come together as a team. And that could be a meeting. Now, I'm not trying to say have meetings for the sake of meetings, but that can be a meeting where you can communicate styles, where you can have an expert come in, such as yourself, and maybe do a dis or Clifton Strengths, training where
Yeah.
you can find out where everyone is, their style, and then learn how to work with individuals that have different styles from you
Yeah.
when it comes to working collaboratively, for the mission of the organization and department, and making
Absolutely.
sure you can get those goals completed. One little strategy I like to provide is, and your listeners may have heard of this, the Pomodoro technique.
Yes, love it.
Yeah, okay, you already use it. So especially when you want to focus and eliminating those distractions too now. So that's where you can work for 25 minutes hard. Now you already got your plan on what you're going to work on, right? So 25 minutes on, put the timer on if you can, whether it's on your cell phone, your watch, or whatever. Put it on for 25 minutes and just work with no interruptions, no distractions. And then after 25 minutes, you can take maybe a 5-minute break, get up, walk around, get you some water, stretch, whatever you need to do, and then go back to it again. So you figure out how many times you want to do those pomodoros, is what they call it. And then at least if you can do that a few times during the day, you can get some work done as well.
Dr. DJ, I do it for 90 minutes.
Okay, I like that too.
I do it for 90 minutes. And I think for some people who are easily distracted, they may not be able to move up to 90 minutes like me, but I'll do it for 90 minutes. And then I might take, I'll take my break. I may walk the dog, I'm gonna get some water, I may do some yoga. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going back in for another 90-minute session. So I can't remember, and you may know this, there's a study that says people only get, you have your long to-do list, but you may only get 3 things done a day.
Well, that's part of my philosophy. I like to start with 3 to 5 items on my priority list. Listen to
Yes.
the
Okay.
priority list. We
Yes.
know we have a list of 20, 25 things that we have to do,
Woo.
big or small. But if you're focusing and prioritizing, remember from the Eisenhower matrix, if you're
Mhm.
prioritizing from the beginning, then you're focusing on the 3 to 5 things. And like you said, getting 3 things done in a day, that could be major. I'm not talking about minor things, I'm talking about some significant tasks that's going to be impactful to move the organization forward.
Right.
Things is fine. 3 things is fine. And some things require a lot more time. So, it's okay because you are on a mission.
Yes.
Are
And then at the end of the week, when you look at your calendar and you say, what did I get done this week?
right.
You can see why I got these tasks done this week that will move the needle forward for the organization or your team or your department.
Absolutely.
I hope
Absolutely.
y'all taking notes. I hope you're taking notes.
And I want to go back to prioritization real quick if I can.
Yes.
But even if you have a list of 20 things on your to-do list, prioritize them
Yeah.
from one, if it's 20, from 1 to 20. And then
Yeah.
you're taking those first top 5, and that's what you're focusing on. And don't you just love checking it off?
It's
And when
something
you're checking
freeing
it
about
off,
checking
yeah,
it off. You know what I do, Dr. DJ, sometimes if I know I have a really packed week, I will do a brain, I try to practice doing a brain dump on Sunday evenings or maybe first thing Monday morning. And then I look at, okay, spreading it out during the week. So now I've got my list of 20 is spread out over my 4-day or 5-day work week.
I
And
love
so
it.
I know what I'm going to be working on for the week. And I like your idea about leave some space. Don't pack it in. Leave some free space, some white space. Leave some white space in there.
White space. And when it comes to planning out your day, your week, one of the good strategies which you already have is you plan tomorrow today. So as you're wrapping up the day, whatever time that is, but I hope it's within a relatively 8-hour day, take 10, 15 minutes towards the end of your shift, for lack of a better word, whatever time
Mhm.
frame that is, and then figure out what you need to do for tomorrow. And there may be some things that you didn't get done today that's going to go on tomorrow's
Yeah.
list as well. So even if it's just a quick outline list, you have something to start the day with. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And not say, oh, what am I going to be doing today? You already figured it out yesterday.
Yeah. It is it's a consistent practice. It's something that you have to be committed to and work it consistently to become an expert. And I'm doing air quotes, right?
Yeah.
To become an expert or to really, really get comfortable with managing your day, right?
Yeah.
Being more productive in your day. It's not about I need more hours in my day. No, how am I utilizing the hours that I have and how can I get the best out of it? Paul J. Meyer said, productivity is never an accident. It is always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. And that's what we've been talking about today. So, what's been your biggest productivity failure? What's been your biggest productivity failure? And how did that experience shape how you approach your work today?
Oh my goodness. First, I want to go back to just say something what you were talking about earlier about being consistent and its practice. It's
Yeah.
actually adapting a new habit. We adapt bad habits, we adapt good habits, but good habits in how you plan your day and how, you approach your work. It's a habit. And so that's what I want individuals to get out of this. And I know research has shown that says, it might take 3 weeks, 30 days to adopt a habit, good or bad. But think about this as a habit, but it's a lifestyle change as well. So it won't happen overnight, and that's okay, so long you continuously practice, like you said. I wanted to say that first about.
Practice is
Go ahead.
great. Practice leads to productivity.
Yes, love it. Oh my goodness, a failure. Well, there was a big one, which actually put me in this space. And I don't know if we talked about this last time or not, but I was early on in my career. I was a young emerging leader in my 20s. And at the time, one of the things that careers that I always wanted to do was be an attorney, or I thought so.
Uh-huh.
But I did not go to law school. Instead, I did get a legal assistant certificate or paralegal certificate, to work in a law firm.
I don't know if I've heard this story, Dr. DJ.
No, we're trying to give you the short version.
Okay.
Because it was as I think back in hindsight and reflect, it was really a learning experience for me, even though I didn't probably see it at the time. But as you know, working in a law firm can be stressful. You got a lot of deadlines, you got a lot of balls going. And this was in the 90s. So we don't have all the technology that we have today. Not that there are excuses, but I love today's technology, but am grateful from starting at a foundational level over 30 years ago without it, because knowing how to navigate the scene, the situation without technology, I can do that.
Yeah.
But back then, me, forgot to file what you call a complaint in the court system. And this was about personal injury, so a car accident. Okay, you have 2 years statutes of limitation, and I have not studied law or anything or read it since the 90s. But back then, it was a 2 years statute of limitations to file a lawsuit if you could not get that claim resolved appropriately with the insurance company.
Okay.
Had a case where we did not. And the insurance company called my supervisor, who's the attorney, and said, you missed a day for, something like that. A day late. So you can imagine how I was feeling like it was my fault. And it was my fault because there's a task that I didn't do. And back then, some of the listeners may know this, we had the tickler system.
Yeah.
You had something that looked like a index card box where we used to put our recipes.
Yes.
In this case, it was dates. You have your tabs with the months, and then you have 1 through 30 or 31, whatever month it is. And you had those, and then you take it out. This is due. File complaint today.
Yes.
But I didn't have a reminder or didn't know how to do it. If I think we were still in DOS mode, I don't know if we had some type of Microsoft, some type of system, maybe I wasn't quite acclimated, but the tickler system was where I was supposed to look at every day. I missed it. This is the ironic thing about it, though. When I went to the file and pulled it out, my complaint was already drafted.
Wow.
I still had, I still was all about productivity and time management then.
Yes.
Because it was there. I was prepared because that's the type of person I am, even in my 20s.
Yeah.
Missed the deadline. That was a failure, lifelong, what should I say?
Learning experience.
Learning experience, right.
Yeah.
And to this day, that's always at the back of my mind. Long story short, I decided to resign because I felt it was my fault. I know the attorney is ultimately responsible, but that's why you hire people to, get these things done. I was a newbie, fresh, and that was my mistake.
Yeah.
And that's why you have insurance.
Right. Look at what you learned from that. You learned so much. That one experience shaped your body of work. I mean, I think it's a great story. You know, they say hindsight is 2020. You don't see it when you're in it, right? But it's a great story, and you probably needed that experience because it's that experience that has shaped your body of work. So, oh my goodness, you took me back with that tickler file.
Oh yeah, you remember? Hey, oh my goodness! And to even take it a step further, at that time I'd already had my BA in political science. Remember, I was on that road.
You were on that track.
I was on that track. But after that, I got my master's in public administration, and my thesis was done on time management. And then I got my doctorate, doctor of management and organizational leadership, and my dissertation was on time management. I was focusing on nonprofit administrators who were working in the technical college system,
Wow.
and the many hats that they wear. So yes, literally, it is my life.
And a well-earned life at that, right?
Earned life.
A well-earned life. Dr. DJ, what are you reading that we should be reading?
Oh my goodness, it's funny you say that. And I'm just starting. So
Okay.
the the 12-week year, get more done in 12 weeks than others do in 12 months. And it's by Brian Moran and Michael Lexington. It's a New York Times bestseller.
Yes, it is.
See that? Okay. And so I'm just starting this, but I just want to see what other strategies leaders in this space recommend. I'm always trying to stay abreast, but I always believe in the old school tactics, that those foundational strategies and hacks and tips that still work today. And what works for one person may not always work for someone else. So you have to do a trial and error and think about, try some things, see what works for you. If it doesn't, that's okay. Throw it out and try something that does work with you. But the one thing I want to say is that we all should do more of is recognize when our peak energies are and when our low energy levels are. Because when we have the high peaks, that's when we should be doing our more focused work. When we have the low peaks, that's when we should be doing those tasks that are low priority. Okay. So
where you don't
I
need a
told
lot
you
of brain
earlier.
energy.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier. I'm a more what they call an early riser, a morning lark.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
more productive before noon. So today I literally got up at 6
Yeah.
8
Yes.
start working. I knew this yesterday. 7 o'clock. Okay, I got to work on this research task, this, and this. And then, of course, I was meeting with you. But sometimes we're forced to work outside of our productivity zones or biological clock. Dr. Michael Brewer's The Power of When suggests that we align tasks with our biological clock to ensure efficiency. So you have people who are night owls. You have people who are what they call third birds, which is midday peaks. Work within your peak productivity if you can. Some days I know you can't, you have to be at work a certain time.
Yeah.
That some people are up late at night.
Yeah.
Sending you texts, sending you emails.
Right.
Hours, right?
Right.
But yes.
Yes. Wow. So the 12-week year, that is a phenomenal book.
Yes,
if you are on a productivity journey, you're looking to get more time in your day, we recommend that, in addition to some other books I'll tell you about in just a moment. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We've been chatting with Dr. Deborah Johnson Blake, also known as Dr. DJ, Principal Consultant CEO of The Writing Pad. Visit the show notes to see how to connect with Dr. Deborah and grab her award-winning books. The links will be in the show notes. And while you're there, make sure you grab a copy of my newest book, The Power of One Question, and our 2025 Leaders Reading List, our special gift to you for being a valuable listener. Until next time.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Tanya Lowe. For all resources mentioned today, guest contact information, Dr. Tanya's results-driven books, and your free gift, visit the show notes. We're dedicated to helping you create results-driven transformation. Until next time.